Yeah, because I wanted to hear the Filipino fan because I've never seen Alex play live.
Oh my God! So what was your impression of the Filipino audience who watched Alex Eala on center court?
My impression of the Filipino fan was so amazing. That's why I stayed to watch the night match, to hear the fans, to feel the energy that comes, because that's all we talk about, but I haven't been able to experience it in person. So I stayed after I was done with work, and I had an absolute amazing experience to see the energy.
Coco Vandeweghe didn't have to stay. Her broadcast duties were over, the cameras had stopped rolling, and she had every reason to head home. But instead of leaving, she remained at Indian Wells for one more reason. She wanted to witness the atmosphere everyone in tennis had been talking about. She wanted to experience the Alex Eala phenomenon with her own eyes rather than simply hear about it. After spending the night courtside watching Eala compete, Vandeweghe returned to the broadcast with a completely different perspective. What she shared wasn't a scripted compliment or an attention-grabbing headline. It was the honest reaction of someone who had just watched thousands of passionate fans create an unforgettable atmosphere long after most expected the excitement to fade. Sitting inside that stadium, surrounded by roaring supporters and waving Philippine flags, she realized she was witnessing something much bigger than another promising young player enjoying a breakout tournament. Her comments revealed a reality that much of the tennis world still hasn't fully understood. This isn't just about impressive attendance figures or sold-out sessions. It's about a shift in the energy of the sport itself, driven by a player whose connection with fans is creating a movement that extends far beyond the scoreboard. What Vandeweghe experienced that night suggests tennis may be entering an entirely new era, and the signs are becoming impossible to ignore. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and let's dive into the full story.
Excited to see what Eala has left in the draw, because we are talking about a player that is somebody that we're going to see for many years. And this is her first time at the BNP Paribas Open. So everything is a new experience.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the moment that captured everyone's attention, because it explains everything before a single statistic ever enters the conversation. Coco Vandeweghe isn't just another television analyst offering opinions from the sidelines. She's a former world number 9, a Grand Slam semifinalist, and someone who spent years competing against the very best players in the world. Throughout her career, she's experienced every kind of atmosphere professional tennis has to offer, from sold-out Grand Slam stadiums and unforgettable night sessions to deafening home crowds at the sport's biggest events. That level of experience matters because Vandeweghe knows the difference between ordinary excitement and something truly extraordinary. She's watched tennis fans celebrate champions, witnessed iconic rivalries unfold, and competed in front of packed arenas where every point felt historic. Very little surprises someone with that kind of resume. Yet what she experienced while watching Alex Eala at Indian Wells caught even her off guard. The energy inside the stadium wasn't just loud, it was constant. Every rally drew a passionate response, every winner sparked another wave of cheers, and the atmosphere felt more like a championship final than a routine tournament match. It wasn't simply a crowd supporting a talented young player. It was thousands of fans creating an unforgettable spectacle around someone they genuinely believed was changing the future of the sport. For a former top 10 star who has witnessed tennis at its absolute highest level, that reaction carried real significance. Vandeweghe immediately recognized that what she was watching wasn't a temporary burst of excitement or a one-off feel-good story. It was evidence that Alex Eala's rise was producing an emotional connection with fans unlike anything the WTA has seen in years, and that realization would soon become impossible for the rest of the tennis world to ignore.
I think as a young player is the best thing that she has going for her game, because that's sometimes a hard thing for a lot of players to be able to create. You see a lot of players erupt, and even yesterday against Coco Vandeweghe, she was playing somebody that was injured but kept mentally focused, kept solid, and didn't let anything bother her. And plus, not having the crowd even overwhelming, because as a young player, when I used to have a crowd going my way, it was shocking and overwhelming because it's not the that you experience. She has such an even head on her shoulders, and it's so impressive. The rest of the game, the physicality, the power, that's only going to keep improving. But sometimes mentality isn't something you can.
Coco Vandeweghe is not someone who is easily impressed. She isn't known for exaggerating moments to create headlines, and she certainly doesn't manufacture excitement just because the cameras are rolling. Throughout her career, as both a player and now a broadcaster, she has built a reputation for being honest, measured, and straightforward. When she says something stands out, people pay attention because they know her praise isn't handed out lightly. That's exactly why this moment carried so much weight. She didn't stay because it was part of her job description, and no one asked her to remain at the venue. She stayed because her curiosity got the better of her. All week, she had been hearing about the incredible atmosphere surrounding Eala's matches, the sea of Philippine flags, and the non-stop energy from the fans. Rather than rely on second-hand stories, she wanted to witness it herself and decide whether the hype was actually real. The answer came almost immediately. After spending the evening courtside, Vandeweghe returned to the broadcast with complete confidence in what she had just witnessed. She admitted that the passion of the Filipino supporters was so extraordinary that it was the very reason she chose to stay. That statement wasn't based on television highlights, social media clips, or attendance figures. It came from someone who had personally sat inside the stadium until well past midnight in the California desert, watching wave after wave of emotion pour from the stands. When she spoke about the atmosphere, she wasn't repeating someone else's narrative. She was sharing her own experience. She had seen the roar after every winner, the endless sea of waving Philippine flags, and the connection between Eala and the crowd that only becomes clear when you're there in person. By the time she left the stadium, she had no doubt that she had witnessed something far bigger than a typical tournament match. She had witnessed a movement that is beginning to reshape the atmosphere of women's tennis itself.
The only question mark with Alex is she has never played here, and playing here in this facility, you see how beautiful it is, how many people are on the grounds. It's just like a Grand Slam tournament. And being in a new facility, a new venue, that's always exciting because you don't know where the locker rooms are. You don't know where all these little things that you don't think about as a fan. Alex is comfortable. Everywhere is Alex's home.
That distinction matters more than it might seem. There are plenty of people talking about the Eala phenomenon right now. Most of them are doing it from a distance, from studios, social media, or match statistics on a screen. Vandeweghe is talking about it from inside the stadium, from an actual courtside seat, and what she said from that perspective carries a completely different level of credibility. What Vandeweghe said on the broadcast went beyond the atmosphere itself. She made a clear point about what Eala is doing for the WTA, something the tour rarely sees. She said Eala fills every court she steps onto, not just the main stadiums, not only the featured sessions. Every court, no matter the schedule, the time of day, or the opponent across the net. She pointed to the late-night match that still attracted a packed and energetic crowd as proof that the appeal isn't about convenient scheduling or primetime exposure. It's entirely about the player on the other side of the net.
For women's tennis. And I particularly was so happy to hear just everybody talking about Alex, whether it was the crowd, it was officials, the Uber drivers, just the restaurant waiters. Everyone definitely heard about Alex Eala. She was a rock star in Indian Wells. The fans were like backing up the stage.
Then she mentioned the detail that made people stop scrolling. Fans were telling her directly during conversations courtside, "I subscribe to Tennis Channel just to watch Alex, not to follow the WTA, not to watch tennis in general, just to watch one specific player. And when Alex isn't playing, some of them cancel their monthly subscriptions. They subscribe when she competes and pause when she doesn't. That isn't casual support." That's a fan base that has completely reshaped its relationship with tennis around one name. Vandeweghe immediately understood what that represents. The commercial impact alone is enormous. A player who directly influences subscription decisions at the broadcast level becomes someone tournament organizers and television executives notice very quickly. But the cultural impact is even greater. It means Eala isn't simply attracting existing tennis fans, she's creating new ones. People who never followed the WTA before are now paying monthly subscriptions just to watch one player throughout the season. That's audience growth in its purest form, and it's happening naturally without a massive marketing campaign driving it. Now put the actual tennis into perspective, because the crowd story only carries this much weight, because Eala's performances backed it up completely. She arrived at Indian Wells and won her opening 2 matches without dropping a single set. Clean, composed, and purposeful tennis. Then the draw produced the matchup everyone wanted: Coco Gauff, the world number 4, a 2-time Grand Slam champion, and the same player who had beaten Eala 6-0 only 2 weeks earlier in Dubai. Everything pointed toward a routine Gauff victory. The recent head-to-head, the ranking difference, the experience advantage, every statistic favored the American. But what happened instead became one of the best single-set performances of the entire Indian Wells tournament. Gauff claimed the opening 2 games and looked completely in control. Then Eala won 6 straight games, 6 consecutive games against the world number 4 on Stadium 1 at Indian Wells. The first set ended 6-2, the exact same scoreline Gauff had used to defeat Eala in Dubai, only this time the result was completely reversed. The serving numbers reveal an even deeper story. During her first 2 matches, Eala had won 59% of points behind her first serve. Against Gauff, that number dropped to just 36%, yet she still captured the set convincingly. She absorbed Gauff's power, redirected the pace into open spaces with remarkable precision, and forced the long physical rallies where her movement and court coverage became major weapons. Every aggressive attack from Gauff was answered. Every attempt to shorten the points was met with deep, controlled shots that forced mistakes from positions Gauff rarely finds herself defending. The second set began with Eala earning another immediate break. As the match continued, Gauff began dealing with physical discomfort that eventually forced her to retire. The contest lasted only 55 minutes, but during those 55 minutes, the scoreboard was heading toward a result that almost nobody inside that stadium expected when the players first walked onto the court.
So you can't buy that. So yeah, I definitely, and I see why people want to root for her, and I root for her even when I'm not playing her, of course.
Gauff's press conference settled the conversation completely. She didn't use the injury as an excuse. Instead, she spoke about the slow courts, the extended rallies, and the physical challenge of facing someone who never gives away an easy point. Then she made the statement that stood out the most. She said Eala was the best player in those conditions, not simply competitive, not just comfortable, the best. Coming from the world number 4 immediately after the match, that was a comment that carried real weight and continued to resonate long afterward.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. I played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot. And also, like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
But the moment that spread the furthest, the one that reached well beyond the tennis world, wasn't the scoreline. It was what happened immediately after the match ended. Eala didn't celebrate or let the cameras capture a moment of personal triumph. Instead, her first reaction was to shift the focus entirely to her opponent's condition. During her post-match interview, she made it clear that this wasn't the way she wanted to earn the victory. Her concern wasn't about advancing to the next round. It was about wishing Coco Gauff a full and speedy recovery. She said winning under those circumstances wasn't how she had imagined such a moment. She added that she hoped Gauff would make a fast and complete recovery. At just 20 years old, after the biggest victory of her career to that point, her first instinct was to make sure the attention was placed where it belonged. That isn't typical after a career-defining win. Most players in that position would have every reason to enjoy the celebration. Eala chose a different path. She acknowledged the opponent she had just defeated, wished her well publicly, and centered her own happiness on the level of tennis she had played rather than the way the match ended. Vandeweghe noticed it. Eala noticed it. Players throughout the tour noticed it. And those moments are adding up into something bigger, a reputation built match by match and press conference by press conference as one of the most composed and genuinely grounded young players the WTA has produced in recent years. There is also a personal side to Vandeweghe's perspective that gives her comments even greater meaning. Her mother is Filipino, so the rise of Eala has never been just another tennis story. She's experienced it through her own family as much as through her role on television. She's seen firsthand what Eala's success means to Filipino families, the excitement, the pride, and the emotional investment that comes with every match. When her mother attended the US Open and returned home talking about wanting a photo with Eala, that wasn't a story she heard from someone else. It happened inside her own home. That personal connection changes the way she speaks about Eala. She's not praising her because it's a popular opinion or because television demands excitement. She's speaking from genuine understanding of what this journey means to a community that has waited decades for a player like this. The Filipino community doesn't simply watch Eala compete, they organize around her matches. Families plan meals around match times, wake up in the middle of the night for different time zones, and subscribe to television services they had never considered before. Vandeweghe has witnessed that dedication personally, so when she described the atmosphere as amazing and admitted she stayed past midnight to experience it herself, her comments came from something much deeper than professional analysis. Vandeweghe also made a broader point that deserves attention. She said tennis is a global sport that everyone can play, watch, and enjoy. She pointed to Eala's rise as proof of what that global reach looks like when it becomes reality instead of remaining an idea discussed in meetings. The scenes at Indian Wells supported that argument. Eala's opening match reportedly generated more than $5 million in ticket sales and helped the tournament reach record attendance before the second week even began. California is home to the largest Filipino population in the United States, nearly 2 million people. They didn't need international travel to attend, they were already there. They filled the Indian Wells tennis garden in remarkable numbers, turned practice sessions into packed events, and even led a former ATP player to publicly question whether larger courts should be assigned before the tournament had fully unfolded. That's what true organic growth looks like. Not a marketing campaign or a carefully planned promotion, but a remarkable player from the Philippines whose supporters consistently transform every venue she enters. Vandeweghe understands how uncommon that is, which is why she continues speaking openly about it on air. Eala's run ended in the round of 16, but that defeat didn't change anything Vandeweghe had said throughout the week. One loss doesn't erase a tournament where a 20-year-old defeated the world number 4 so convincingly that her opponent praised the performance afterward. It doesn't erase the overflowing practice courts, the late-night crowds, or the Philippine flags still waving long after the final point. It also doesn't change the bigger picture. Eala sits inside the world's top 30, has earned multiple victories over top 10 opponents within a short period, and now heads to Miami, the tournament where she first introduced herself to the tennis world 1 year earlier. This time she arrives with greater experience, a more complete game, and a fan base that has grown even larger. The ranking points from last year's Miami semifinal are now up for defense. Matching that run would help maintain her position at a crucial stage of the season. Going even further could push her into the world's top 20 for the first time, changing her Grand Slam seedings, altering future draws, and shifting the conversation from promising talent to established contender. The top 20 milestone is within reach. Based on the tennis she has played and the maturity she has shown over the past 2 months, there is every reason to believe she is ready to challenge for it. Coco Vandeweghe stayed late at Indian Wells because she wanted to experience what everyone had been talking about. She experienced it for herself. Then she returned to the broadcast and described exactly what she saw, not as a favor to a young player or as television hype, but as a former professional who recognized something genuinely important. She saw a player changing the atmosphere of the WTA simply by stepping onto the court. She saw a fan base planning its schedule around one athlete and subscribing to television services just to follow her matches. She saw a 20-year-old handling victories, setbacks, crowds, pressure, and expectations with a level of maturity that continues to impress experienced veterans across the sport. Miami is next, and this story is far from over. If Vandeweghe's assessment proves correct, and the evidence continues to support it, the biggest chapters of Eala's journey are still ahead. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your prediction in the comments. How far do you think Eala will go in Miami? And will she break into the world's top 20 before this swing comes to an end? The story is only getting started.